Hi, I'm Peter Reynolds, and welcome to Pros and Conversations, the podcast that not only interviews inspiring people from the world of science, business, and the arts, but also gives real tools that aspiring entrepreneurs can use to get their businesses started. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Damon Adachi, who's a marketing consultant with Sevenfold Marketing. How you doing, Damon?
Good, yourself?
Excellent. Now, last episode, we talked about the 5 pillars of small business, and we discussed marketing and branding. What's the second pillar we're going to talk about today?
Well, interestingly enough, it's operations, and you would think that most entrepreneurs are the experts in the operations silo because that's the core of your business. But there's a major subset behind that, which is your technology, and it sort of constitutes the backbone of your entire process and operations. And I think it's probably one of the more underserved parts of people's businesses because it is very important. And you think you have some level of savviness as a tech savvy person. You've got a phone, you've got a laptop, but there are a lot of other considerations that are not being considered necessarily to help small businesses thrive.
Yeah, this is a pretty complex topic, and to help work our way through it, we have with us Shawn Huelin. And Shawn, you are the owner of Discovernet. Can you first just tell us a little bit about what Discovernet is?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Peter. The Discovernet started 22 years ago, and the concept behind it was take the technologies that large-scale businesses have and bring that technology scape to smaller-sized businesses. And that includes everything from software development all the way to security services, help desk, business process, realignment, automation, all things technical. We even look after coffee makers that plug into your network.
I tell you,
that exists.
It's amazing because I think for the average person when they're starting their business, they probably don't think about managed IT as something that they have to worry about. They've got their laptop, they've got Geek Squad, and they're probably not thinking about managed IT. But you're suggesting that it's something you really need to think about right at the beginning.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Because I haven't run into a business yet that didn't rely in some form in IT, right? Whether it's your operations, whether it's your accountant and your accounting system, like there's something there that is going to be technology related that you really need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, in my experience, I would say that the thing that grinds your operations to a halt the fastest is when your devices aren't working, your Wi-Fi is not working, you are suddenly shut down. It's not like you can say, well, that check is going to clear soon. So finances can, it gets a bit of a grace period. But when your technology is not working, you are not working.
Yeah. Oh man, like the support calls we get for if email is down, like it could be a small blip in someone's home internet and within seconds they're like, email's down, the sky's falling, right? Like it's a critical tool that a lot of salespeople need for sure.
No, I literally just experienced that myself because I had downloaded a piece of software to sort of clean up my Mac and sort of get rid of any unwanted files. And it just asked me one little question that, do you need this? And I said yes. And all of a sudden I go to my emails and everything is gone. And there's literally nothing there. And, my heart is in my throat. I'm having palpitations, and the ability to call somebody and have them put you at ease and say, no, nothing is gone. It's just communicating with your email server that's been disconnected. And that is so critical because I think as entrepreneurs, we want to get back to the business of running our business, and if we can have, somebody as a member of our team, who might not be in the actual building, but is there, who can, handle those situations either day to day or when there's a crisis. I think that's just going to help us focus where we need to focus.
Yeah. And the setting your systems up right so you can have that comfort that you can call somebody and say, hey, no, everything's fine. Because, maybe you happen to delete your email And if you didn't have systems in place to recover from that, then and a lot of people miss that. They're like, oh, I don't need to back stuff up. It's fine.
Guys, you're making me nervous, okay? It's starting to get I'm sweating a little bit over here because we've all had those moments. So looking at the overall concept of technology in small business, I think that you can sort of talk about it from three angles. One is your hardware and your devices. And the second one is the software and the systems that you're running. And lastly, is a very important one for me, would be security, and making sure that not only is that being no downtime and sustainable and nothing's wrong with it, but that it's also secure in privacy and in data protection and things like that. Is there anything you think you'd want to add to those three, Shawn?
Well, I would actually, the third one, I would just call it business continuity or business recovery.
Right.
Security and hacking is sort of an event of that, and we can put a lot under business continuity to cover security and backups and operations. Okay,
that makes sense. So from a hardware perspective, I know personally, when I started, I bought my Mac, being a graphic designer by trade at the beginning. So I've gone through 3 in 13 years, and they've been super reliable, and it's a business machine. Like, I went high end with it because I knew I was going to be doing high processing. But if you've got a team of people, does it make sense to have an expert tell you what you need for your business in terms of hardware and the right types of laptops and the right types of processing speed in those things, and making sure that the whole staff is well equipped, rather than handing down the 2008 MacBook through 4 people as it usually happens?
Yeah, and you're going to have to help your consultant or your IT guy understand your business, and a really good IT person is going to want to understand what you're doing so they can make the best recommendations. So, if you come to me and say, yes, you're a graphic designer and I'm going to have a team of 15, then we're going to try to set you up so you've got those plans and those things in place, so it makes it easier. Now, from a support perspective, the more things that you can have in common and repeatable and the same, the easier it will be for anyone to then step in and help out and support. If you've got different devices and different plugins and different, well, just look at cell phones and the different USB-C and adapters and firewires and all those different cables. Like, consistency helps so much.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I'm in video production, and I went the PC route very early, sort of in my journey, mostly because of cost. At the beginning, the Mac was very expensive, and very quickly I got on the kind of anti-Mac bandwagon. I don't need a Mac. I'm not a fanboy. I just need something for work. And then, funny enough, the people that I was working with, the freelancers that I was hiring, they all used Macs, and it just became a situation where it just made sense for us all to be working from the same system, to have the same technical issues that would come up. So that consistency, I guess, not only with the people in your office, but with the industry, is probably a consideration.
Yeah, 100%. You have to look at who you're working with and where you're going to be exchanging files and that whole ease of use. There are, in businesses, there's this bring your own device, because people like, the Macs, they like their Surface, they like a desktop. So how do you keep that consistent? And there's some technologies using remote desktop where, your corporation itself has access to log into a Windows machine, and you can log into it from an iPad. Like, I'm talking to you now from my iPad through a remote desktop, but I'm running a Windows desktop, basically Windows on an iPad. So that keeps its consistency, and the people bring their own device, and you can have Wi-Fi. As long as you've got Wi-Fi, you can get access to that information. That helps with the consistency aspect. But
Shawn, is it changing now with the cloud? And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but the fact that we can, once we get onto the internet, we can interact with Google Docs and all this different software out there. How is that changing the technology requirements for businesses to be consistent if we can all go on the cloud?
Yeah, the cloud still has requirements on making sure you're up to date. So if you've got your own PC, and we've got some clients that are running Windows 7 because of some business software that they have that won't go to the cloud easily, so they have to run Windows 7. So if they have another division that's in a cloud service and they don't have the up-to-date browser that will help run some of those cloud apps, then the cloud isn't going to help them in that case. Google has been really, really diligent on locking down things that just don't make sense from a security perspective. From a graphic design perspective, when Flash disappeared, right? The no more Adobe Flash because it was so insecure. Like that impact on websites and marketing and systems just disappeared overnight, which sort of brings up sort of cloud systems is cloud. When you move to the cloud, unless you control what you're putting in there for systems, the cloud controls you in a sense. So say I'm running my accounting package in the cloud and they decide, well, we're not going to support HST anymore, but I charge HST. Like, what am I going to do? Right. And that does happen. Like you use a feature and they decide to take that out, which is a risk, but people don't think about that. They just think, oh, I have this and it's going to be the same forever.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. We even do that now. I mean, we're recording, using a cloud-based recording software. If that company decides to change how they do business or how many people they support in a stream, that has a direct impact on my business, and I'm relying on it. So probably, I don't know what you think, Damon. I mean, we're both in sort of the graphics field. This whole idea of now, you don't buy software, you rent it, and you
Right.
have members, subscriptions drives me crazy. And I guess that's a trend that's just with everything now.
Well, I actually appreciate it. And there were times when I would borrow software from somebody who had already purchased the license and there was still a license key available. And those are, I'm dating myself here pretty seriously.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
It was in the past. It's past the statute of limitations. It's no problem. No, but at the same time, I really appreciate a recurring predictable cost, click of a button, charge to the credit card. I get the latest version. And I'm sort of selling a commercial here for Adobe, but it actually makes my operations run much smoother, and not having version issues with clients and things like that. So I like the software subscription concept and recurring, and I wouldn't talk anybody off of that.
Adobe is one of the companies that did it really, really well, right?
Yeah,
their cloud suite or creative suite for $70 or $50 a month, whatever it is, like to get access to all the apps. Whereas, Microsoft, they have different plans, and it's like Microsoft, like there are Microsoft licensing specialists. Like that is a career just to understand the different options. And it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I'll tell you a little secret. I don't know if you've done this, Damon, but when as your license is coming up for renewal, and somebody told me to do this. They said, cancel your subscription. This is for Adobe. They said, if you cancel your subscription, you will get a fantastic deal. And I said, that can't be the way. And so
it works for Rogers. Why shouldn't it work for Adobe?
So I went on and I said, cancel subscription. It said, sir, sorry to see you go. Are you sure you want to cancel? You say yes. It says, what if we offer you 1 month free? Okay. You say, nope. I want, comes back, how about 3 months free? And I could not believe it, that you really have to go through the whole process. And then you just, that sounds great. I'll take 3 months free. And then you renew. I mean, it's a game, I guess,
Well, that actually brings up a really good point about automating your business, right? So that was all automated. It was the system they had in place that helped you through that cancellation. You didn't have to call, you didn't have to deal with people, and that's just the way it is, right? And that alleviates you as a business owner from taking that call, right? You've got your follow up or your funnel, just like you have a funnel for marketing, you've got a funnel for dealing with your clients, and the more you can automate, and now you're happy, you're paying a little bit less, and you still have the product.
We hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Pros and Conversations is brought to you by For the Record Productions, providing video production services to corporate and nonprofit clients for over 20 years. To learn more about how we can help your business, visit videosthatmatter.ca. And by the Business Alliance, a professional peer group that helps you grow your business through networking, collaboration, and sound advice. To learn more about how to become a member, visit jointhealliance.biz.
So to that point of automating your business, what do you say to the smaller companies and entrepreneurs who are still in the dark ages using Excel to invoice and things like that? Like those people who are just kind of a step behind and not working on a CRM system. Where's the motivation to invest in that kind of systems and enterprise software?
I think it depends on what you want to do with your business. So do you want to be sort of an independent contractor and you're happy with the level that you're making? You're okay with doing that? There's not going to be any desire to change. But if your vision is to grow your business, to make, to eventually have you not be in the business, 18 hours a day like some of us have all had to do, but have other people work for you for 18 hours a day. But I joke. But if you want to get to that level, you're going to have to do automation. And there's a big perturbation about automation because in order for me to automate something, I need to know what my process is. And that normally starts with some sort of document, flow chart, back of the napkin, doesn't matter. Because if you can't automate it yourself, you're going to have to explain that to someone who can help you automate it, but then you're going to have to explain that process so they can do it for you. And the more you're doing manually and the more that you have to do as the owner, the more you become the bottleneck, the more it limits your ability to grow beyond just yourself.
Wow, excellent point.
Can you give us another example? I know we talked about invoicing and the example with, sort of Adobe giving you a deal if you try to cancel. Can you some other examples of automation that listeners out there might not be aware of?
From a smaller business perspective, just dealing with your accountant at year end, how having a good relationship with them, understanding what they need to help you do your taxes, you can start to set up some automations there. So one of them could be expense report items. So you take your gas, take a picture with your phone. There are some great apps on there that when you take a picture, you can then categorize it and then send that to your accountant, as opposed to like the shoebox accountants that have, you send them the box and here's all my receipts and you go through it. Those
Right.
types of processes. Anything that's repeatable on a daily basis. In dealing with incoming customer emails. So if you've got a specific person at one of your key clients, you can set up an Outlook rule or mail client of your choice rule that says, if I get an email from this person, I can automatically reply saying, thank you very much, I got your email, I'm in the middle of something right now, I'd be happy to look at that by this time. Like setting expectations with your customers in an automated way. Obviously you got to make sure you follow up and commit to what you put in your automation. But doing that gives a sense of I'm being looked after.
Yeah, I've noticed that happening more and more. And for example, a couple of clients that I work with, when I send them an email, I get an automatic response and they say, thanks for touching base. Go to my online calendar and book 30 minutes with me. And I get access to their calendar immediately and I book my time. I speak with no one and it's all set up and I get a calendar invite from them. And so I was blown away. I experienced that for the first time last year and was thinking maybe I should be doing something like that myself.
Yeah, honestly, this week alone, today's Wednesday, I think. So this week I have spent 3 hours trying to book a meeting with someone. Like if a meeting takes more than 2 emails to pick a time, like use something like Calendly. It's free for one meeting type. Like send them the link, say, here you go, find the time. Not that I'm not willing to give you my time, but my time is way more valuable helping you through a situation versus spending a time booking a meeting.
And that brings up a point for me is, where I found I wanted automation to be most effective in my business is in project management. So Peter, I'm sure you can relate to this. When you're running multiple clients, multiple projects, and you're having to manage your time and remember what's priority, having a system that has a documented, people used to have whiteboards on the wall. Like that's how it used to work, right? Where you would sketch out everything you're working on. But having that automated, shared across multiple users, updated from anywhere, that's super beneficial for a project-based business like mine. And then you can have people book into that calendar right through Calendly or other applications. So do you have any recommendations for that kind of system and software and support, Shawn?
Yeah, it's going to be industry specific. But for some of the generic ones like Monday.com for project management, Calendly for sure to book calendar entries. It's compatible with Google Apps, Outlook. There's some plugins. You name the client, they've got access to it. And even Calendly can be for teams. So we run a service desk. So what we do is we actually have a service desk account that says book it in the calendar, and it will book an appointment in 3 people who are free, and then whoever is available will then take it. So it does scale from 1 to multiple. So, and that's a good point when you're looking at tools, is make sure it's scalable. The process that works for a solopreneur may not quite work when you have to start getting more people. Some of the other tools that are really good from a productivity perspective is a video speed tool. So if you're watching, YouTube's got the ability to speed it up by 1-2 times. But if you're watching videos or listening to podcasts, not all sites support that. So you just get a plugin for your browser. I watch a lot of training videos on 2.5-3 times speed. When I re-listen to this podcast, I can guarantee I'll be listening at 2 or 3 times speed for sure.
That is so incredibly disheartening to hear that you do that, Shawn, because I carefully craft training videos, to have the right pacing, tempo, that emotional grab at the beginning, and here you are watching it at twice speed. So
I'm just reminded of Rick Moranis in Ghostbusters saying he watched a 20-minute workout and fast forward and it only took him 8 minutes.
That was great.
That's Shawn.
Yeah,
that's Shawn.
100%. 100%.
So
I feel bad for the creators because they don't get compensated. They get compensated on actual watch time, not sped up watch time. So
you don't feel bad.
I do.
You don't feel bad. We talked earlier about when you can automate and when you can get away with not doing it. If you're a smaller business, you might not necessarily invest in big systems. I'm gonna inject a bit of marketing angle on the technology discussion and bring it around to a bit of a public service announcement for your website. If you're not investing in the technology that makes your website effective and supportive for your business, you are not just missing out, you are costing your business money from poor branding, poor representation. And it's things like having, a login for your clients, things like that, where they can view their invoices, where you've got to build in some automation, you've got to build in some intelligence into a database behind the scenes. But I'll give you an example of a home-based spa that I was working for, and they needed the very best systems where you can book their practitioners and you have an account for your waivers and all of these things. And their competition was a toilet paper roll website with just promotional jargon and pictures. And that was it. It was like a bad real estate flyer. And that was the whole website. At the bottom was email us to book. The representation of that business is so terrible because they did a cheap cousin built website or something like that. I know it's probably not in your bread and butter service providing stuff, Shawn, but speak to website and online presence and involvement in things that are forward facing to the client.
Yeah, the easier you can make it for someone to do business with you, the higher likelihood that they're going to continue to do business. You just take the technology out. I have to get an oil change. I'm not calling a service advisor. I want to book my appointment online. I'm going to tell them what I need, and I'm going to see the appointment. Just like the Calendly link thing that we talked about. Like, the easier it is. Now, it doesn't all have to be, true automation. If someone wants to call, then make sure your phone system has the ability to get through to you or someone so they can pick up a call, especially if you have that option to, no, I don't want to deal with chat bots, or I don't want to deal with automation. I want to deal with a person, right? So the more you can make that interaction seamless, easy for your customers, the way better chance you've got and in retention and even gaining new clients.
So we've talked about automation, and want to sort of shift gears and talk a little bit about security, because we talked about that at the beginning, and sort of, how important sort of is that, and for the sort again the starting business, maybe it's a couple of people working, from home, and they've got their computers, and it's kind of shifted, because there was a sort of a time when we all were downloading, McAfee and all these different, virus protections. And now it's sort of evolved into ransomware, and, you hear these crazy news stories. Obviously it's important, but it's sort of how important and how much should that be top of mind?
Yeah, and not to sell with fear. It's not a matter of if you're going to get hit. It's going to be a matter of when, because it's a without getting too far into the weeds on Bitcoin and blockchain currencies and alternate currencies, without the ability to track who owns that money, it is very difficult to catch the people who are hacking your systems without that traceability, right? And so while there is systems still in place that allows for transfer of money pretty much anonymously, then these things will continue to happen. And it's lucrative. Like right now, you can go into the dark web, which is a whole other podcast discussion. And I could hire a hacker to say, you know what, Damon's my competition. And I'm going to launch this new service, and Damon's launching a new service. So I'm going to take his website offline for the day while I launch mine. And that sort of espionage happens. It happens around mergers and acquisitions as well. So a long way of saying it's going to happen to you at some point. So what we have to change the conversation is what is your risk profile and what is your risk tolerance like? 5 or 6 years ago, people would say, well, I don't need to back up because, or I don't have to worry about security because, what data does a hacker want, right? Well, they're going to try to hack you to see what they can get from you. It's either who you know, right? What do you know? And do you have any information that I can use to make more money somewhere else? Like your email list, right? If I can spoof Damon's email just enough, right? Because not a lot of people look, very carefully. If I throw the number 7 in sevenfold versus spelling out 7. Is someone going to notice that right away? Maybe, maybe not. If the E happens to look like an O and in a quick glance, right, you could get tricked. I could send that link out to Peter. Peter clicks on that link. Now I have access to Peter's computer. Peter then signs on to online banking. But your identity is huge, right? Like if I can take out a mortgage on your home with the information that I get from logging into your computer, I can walk away with $100,000. In this market, especially if I can do that, and then the money's in my account and I leave, like that's important. Now you have employees and your HR system gets hacked. Like the spread of that is insane, absolutely insane.
Well, and aside from the more nefarious things that you have to deal with, there's still crashes and a fire in your office can destroy your hard drive and you've got no backup of that data. So there's, beyond security, like you had said earlier, business continuity is more of the right umbrella to say, what do we do in the case of a data loss, whether it's because it's sensitive information or because it's vital to our operations.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me back because I can squirrel off on these topics.
Dark place,
yeah, right. But that's a good point. So we talked about automation and all how your systems are interconnected. Now, do you have that documented, right? So if that automation breaks, can you still service your customer? And we always try to talk to our customers about, what do you have in place and what can you do to continue to serve your customer? Damon brought it up earlier, you get a check, it goes in the bank, whatever, not a big deal. That process will still happen. But what if I can't ship? What if I can't invoice, right? What if I can't take phone calls because we have a client who takes 95% of their business over the phone. If their phone system goes down, how are they doing business? And they have a website, you can go online, but their customers love their sales staff. So that's the continuity. And at some point you're gonna have to look at budget and say, okay, well, where do I need to focus? And the answer is it's going to be, it depends, right? So in that example, they put all their money into their phone system and automation on failover and disaster recovery so they can actually have a phone call, right? If you're all through email and you don't ever talk to your customer on the phone, or it's occasional, then you want a good, reliable, non-free email service, right? And from a marketing perspective, get your own domain. Like if you're a real estate agent and you've got, Shawn@gmail.com, no, it's $60. Go get yourself a domain a year. Like, I don't even think it's $60. Damon could probably have a better idea. Anyway.
Well, I charge at least $60. Yeah.
Right? So yeah, have those processes documented, put your money where it is. And if you don't know where that is right away, then absolutely talk to a consultant, talk to your IT person, talk to someone else in your industry that you trust where they're going to put their money, for sure.
Shawn, let me back it up just a little bit, because I'm just thinking about those listeners who are never going to open their computers again. And I'm just wondering, can you give sort of one piece of advice, or what's one thing they can do to kind of dramatically reduce the risk? Is it a piece of software? What is it that they can do to obviously they can't cover everything, but what's something that they can do?
Facetiously, get a typewriter. Go back to ribbon and paper. No, but unfortunately, there's no one thing. And I can use the analogy of your home. So, just because you get an alarm system doesn't mean you're going to take the locks off your doors, right? When you add video in, to see in case something happens, you don't remove the alarm system, right? It's about layers. Go Shrek reference. Ogres are like onions. They all have layers. If you have enough layers in place, then the people who are trying to do things nefariously will move on to somebody else who's a little easier to get through. So, having a good domain name service, so a DNS service. So that's the thing that translates like google.ca into an IP address. There are services that will filter that. So if you happen to type in, G00 instead of GOO for Google, it will say, is that what you really meant? Versus letting you go to that site. Good malware product. None of the free ones, like AVG offers free and paid. Always take the paid because you get the updates first. They offer you a few more benefits and features. Whether it's McAfee, AVG, Kaspersky, there's, if it's named, if it's a brand name, great. If it's, Huelin's backdoor antivirus, maybe not. Those types of things. Definitely have an automated backup for sure in case any of that stuff fails. Stay away from public hotspots. Right. Use your phone.
That's the one thing. That's the one thing you need to know there, Peter. I hope you got that one thing down.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And it's great to have somebody we trust to talk about this. It's been very enlightening. I'm sure you've learned stuff, Peter. I've learned tons of stuff. I've learned also not to wear the same color shirt as my background. Look like a head from Futurama. Should be. But what I think we should plug for Shawn is, Discovernet is one of the 50 best managed IT companies in Canada, and this man knows what he's talking about. What's your client range and size? It's probably not the entrepreneur who's just starting up a business, probably a little too small fry for you. But where do you service the market?
So we do have conversations with the smaller companies where they want to go. We don't typically help implement some of those. But happy to have just a half hour, 45-minute conversation of tools, tips, and tricks. That's great. But typically we're in the 10 employee range and above. Yeah. Whether it's work from home or one's location across Canada, the US, that's sort of the size.
Well, Shawn, this has been a really complex topic, and I know, as you said, we could have multiple episodes on various.
Alice in Wonderland, man. Like, oof.
But thank you so much for helping us decode it. and lending us your time and your expertise.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And Damon, thank you very much for filling the co-host chair again.
Glad to, anytime.
We've been talking to Shawn Huelin from Discovernet, and I'm Peter Reynolds, and you've been listening to Pros and Conversations. See you next time.